Well, there's been a lot of bad press for Disney when it comes to their DAS system that they recently overhauled, which stands for the Disability Access Service, where people that are physically disabled are able to get a pass to bypass the long queues and not have to wait in line as long. Well, Disney, again, recently has changed this program to where they're much more limited on the amount of people that they're allowing to get DAS passes, which has caused a bit of an uproar with people that have been very loyal and gone to Disney parks a lot. And we have another story here, not really involving DAS, but does involve a disabled family and what they had to go through, is seemingly with cast members not being the most attentive to the situation at hand. So we're going to read through and give some thoughts on it. So hi, I'm Jared, Capture the Magic. And we're actually just going to go straight to the forum post about this because this gives us more firsthand information about the situation and things that happen on this. So they posted this September 4th of this month. And they said, I am in need of some neutral advice for an issue that happened this past Monday on Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We had a lightning lane and we're using ECVs. Just as we were parking ECVs, the skies opened and a downpour started. We shrugged and knew we were about to get wet anyways. As we approached the load, I heard several claps of thunder and thought to myself, oh, great, they're going to shut the ride down and we will miss our chance to ride. The cast member at the exit asked the cast member operating the ride if they were going to still load, which they continued doing. We were loaded into the back of the log and off we went. After the first hill drop, as you go outside and around the bend, the ride suddenly came to a stop. There was one log in front, and that was just about to go up the next lift hill. Our log and a log behind us. The rain was really coming down, and within seconds, we were all completely drenched as we jumped in a swimming pool. There were several of the recorded announcements telling us to remain in the ride vehicle, and they would resume momentarily. Eventually, this progressed to an actual cast member telling us that we should remain in our logs and we would be evacuated. This went on for 45 minutes, during which there were lightning strikes over our head. Wow. One point, the storm was directly over us with no seconds between lightning strikes and thunder. Then there was an announcement for all cast members to take shelter immediately. Wow. My insulin pump was completely in the rain, getting wet the entire time. My backpack and all the contents were completely saturated. When the two cast members finally emerged to help us evacuate, they tried to hand out ponchos to the first log who were already wearing ponchos. I was absolutely floored by this. Not sure what a poncho is going to do when you've been sitting in a Florida thunderstorm for 45 minutes and our log was never even offered one. My mother, who is able to walk, just has some balance issues, nearly fell into the ride during the evacuation process because her glasses were so wet and had no way to dry them off, impairing her sight. If it wasn't for the lovely guest from the UK who was in front of us helping both of us, she definitely would have either hit her head on the rocks you pass under or fallen in the very narrow path. Oh, geez. Once we make it out of the backstage area and return to where our ECVs should be, the cast members thought the best remedy was to give everybody a MEP. Which is basically a ride anytime fast pass, a main entrance pass. I think is what they mean by that. And some of this does have misspellings here, but we're trying to figure out what they're saying here. So by this point, I'm blank thing because my insulin pump may be totally ruined, and I was still having a panic attack after having sat out in water during a thunderstorm with lightning directly overhead. We were the last three logs evacuated from a ride, which should have been shut down as soon as there was rain and thunder. I was eventually able to speak to a supervisor and explain why we were so upset and distressed. I was advised to go to guest services on Main Street. I had to ask for a poncho, and she did give me one. Guest services was great at listening and gave me a number to contact to file a claim for my medical device. They offered me a redemption pass for Guardians of the Galaxy the next day, as we would not be back at Magic Kingdom. I was offered the option to get a shirt, but I was wearing a tennis dress soaked completely, and a shirt would do nothing in the way of drying me off or warming me up. We were given extra ponchos as my mom's had torn. Am I completely off the mark in thinking we should have never been boarded and the ride should have been shut down? I feel like Disney had no concern for the safety of us and the three logs that were sitting out in the middle of a thunderstorm. That there was nothing provided in the way of towels to dry off, and that not one cast member or supervisor seemed overly concerned of our well-being. Now I'm firmly in the camp and was basically in it that Tiana's Bayou Adventure needs to be shut down until you can get it working without many daily breakdowns. This attraction is worse than Rise of the Resistance was for the amount of breakdowns. That is insane. I mean, the details of this are, she's not wrong in that they should have once you hear thunder, which I'm surprised they put them on the ride, because once you hear thunder, they're supposed to be like, hey, we shut that down because they will shut down. Now, if it rains, they will still run mini rides in the rain. But when there's thunder or there's lightning, they don't mess with that. And I can tell you by living in Florida, the thunderstorms down here, they typically come in pretty quick and leave pretty quick. But man, they can be powerful, and the amount of rain and wind that can come down, and the lightning is no joke. So being out in that with lightning overhead would be a very scary situation. I honestly can't imagine being in that situation, especially if it was with my kids. I would be furious. And the fact that they didn't seem apologetic, and obviously they didn't seem to care about the people outside, like that is a liability, a lawsuit, something terrible waiting to happen. And sadly, it doesn't surprise me a lot, as we've seen over the years that the cast members, and many of them, I'm not saying cast members are bad. What I'm saying is the training and the amount of emphasis on guest relations, I do believe, has really taken a nosedive. And I know this because my dad used to work for Disney, and he told me about they have the traditions program, which is how long, they basically teach you about the Disney way and the Disney difference and things. That used to be a couple of weeks long. And I believe he said when he did it, it was just like 1 or 2 days. And they just don't go into this anymore, because I have a hard time believing 10 years ago this situation would have happened, because if somebody was stranded out there, somebody would have came out there and be like, we have got to get these people off this ride. Because I don't really blame the cast members are just running this ride. They're taking their cues from management. I blame whoever is in charge of this ride and upper management. That is completely unacceptable. And the fact that there was not more done to basically accommodate these people is I don't even know what to say about that. That's insane. And I understand things happen and mistakes get made. But in this situation, like that potentially could have been life-threatening. I mean, lightning, again, in Florida is no joke. And being out in there, especially just sitting in water, you are literally just a sitting duck for something like that to happen. So I don't know in terms of anything else that happened from this, but it does seem like a pretty scary situation to be involved in. Now, of course, if you're going to go get a ride, you hear thunder, you could use your 2 cents there and just say, I'm not going to get this ride right now. Personally speaking, for me, I wouldn't have got on, because I understand how the storms go down here. And once you hear that thunder, it's not long before you start really seeing rain come down. So I probably just wouldn't have got on the ride at that point. But again, as a guest in a theme park, you're relying on cast members to basically set those rules forth. And if a ride is open and running, it's supposed to signal to you that it is safe, it's been tested, whatever the case may be, and you don't have to worry about things. You're on vacation. It's not your job to necessarily be like, is this ride operational, or what's the protocol for getting off of here? But again, when it comes to Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it seems like the ride is unreliable, and now it seems like some of the cast members, I won't say cast members, the management here, they essentially doesn't know how to run a ride when there's a storm going on, and you have people literally out in the elements in danger of this. So this whole story is pretty wild. Obviously, this is some person saying this. There's no documented evidence of a video of this. So I suppose on some level we do have to take people at their word. But this would be a pretty involved lie to go into, because if we go down here, I mean, there's a lot of people responding to this, and she responded back. So, if someone is making this up, I mean, this is a pretty involved, elaborate thing. And it is one that, if it really did happen, I mean, I don't know about a lawsuit. I suppose I'm sure Disney probably, did pay for their medical equipment, I would assume, if they're sitting out there and that stuff was ruined. But either way, it just doesn't give you a good taste in your mouth, especially with dealing with a situation like that. And it, potentially could ruin a trip, definitely ruin, be a bad part of your day. And, when she says had a panic attack, I can imagine being stuck out in a storm for 45 minutes as you're getting soaked, and there's lightning and thunder all around you. Like, that's just not a good situation to be in. It just seems like, yet again, especially when you're coming about Tiana's Bayou Adventure, that this ride seemingly can't catch a break. And this situation here makes me definitely wonder about the management of people running this ride, in terms of the decisions being made when, especially in situations like that. But again, I don't know the protocol for this. And again, I'm not blaming cast members specifically. I do put this more on a management and like a training situation. But I definitely think that something like this shouldn't be happening. And if somebody is out on a ride when some situation like this, you need to go get them as quickly as possible, especially when they're in the elements. It would be one thing if you're in one of the show buildings, because those don't, you don't have the risk of lightning. It's not raining on you at that point. But when you're, out in the elements like that, that's a scary situation. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Disney World, Universal Studios, Epic Universe, and pop culture. And let us know what you think about this in the comments. And until next time, we will see you in the parks.